Welcome in. You are speaking with the Meeples Champion, and we are here to have our very first top 10. That's right. Today, what I wanted to do was a solo top 10. I'm hoping in the future that I'll be able to bring in some of my friends and have us actually do a larger setup, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 of us together, each with top 10s, surprising each other with our lists, and not only discussing, but debating about where people's games have landed. But today, I thought it would be fun to lead off this idea with just me doing a top 10 by myself, putting it out there for you guys and seeing what you think. Now, I'm going to be releasing a list. There were 26 games considered for this particular list. The list is going to be my funnest games played in my game group on Monday nights this year. So that dates all the way back to the beginning of January. There were 26 different games that I participated in on Monday nights. So I threw them all into PubMeeple. I ran through the test. I looked at the results. I agreed. So I had no major issue to push one way or the other. I felt that they were pretty clear. And this list is not about my favorite game. It's not about a game I think you should play. It's about when I thought about the time or times that we played that game, how much fun did I have? To me, having fun during a game is the most important piece. Why are you playing a game if not to have fun? So even though there are other games I may like more on the overall, there are times when a game, just that experience, that particular night was great. And maybe a game you normally don't like turns into a game you love on a certain occasion. So I'm going to go through this top 10, and we're going to lead it off right away with number 10, Raiders of the North Sea. I am a huge fan of the Raiders and the North Sea and the West Kingdom trilogies. I really like what they do. And of those games, the Raiders of the North Sea is the tippy top for me. I love the game mechanics. I love the way that you get to have two actions, but somebody, depending on what they do, can mess up the order of your actions, and you go, oh, I can still do what I wanted to do, but now I have to go B and then A instead of A and then B, and that ruins it for me. I love that you can, invest all of your resources to go up and try to go and raid these villages, but depending on where you raid and when, it completely can throw off what resources are out there. The fact that there's a limited, finite amount of resources and not all of them hit the board every game. So depending on what gets pulled and depending on where it gets dropped, you can have a game that's extremely strong at the beginning, extremely strong at the end, or turns out to be pretty weak overall because maybe the random source resources not added were a whole bunch of gold, or maybe you missed out on a bunch of the Valkyries. I love it. And I played 4-player with my friends, and I feel like we had an extremely competitive matchup. It was really fun start to finish. We were really just fighting it out to the bitter end. I don't think first to fourth was a giant shift in points. I'm pretty sure it was a pretty tight game overall. It was a great experience. Since having played, I picked up the Fields of Fame expansion. I have not gotten it to the board yet, but I cannot wait to get that out and play that again with everybody and see how that expansion runs. So, number 10, Raiders of the North Sea. Number 9, Downforce. I have not reviewed this game yet, but I cannot wait to. This is a game I used to play years ago in my old game group, and was surprisingly, I liked it because I'm not really a racing person. I don't like to watch anything like NASCAR. I don't like to go grab remote-controlled cars. And for the most part, with the exception of playing Mario Kart, I don't like to play racing video games. But I loved Downforce. And so when we played this year in the group, it was our first time as a group playing this game. Oh, I think we did play it on Board Game Arena during COVID, but in person, online are different things. It was such a fun game. We went with a recommendation from me, which, to be fair, was a bad idea, to do 2 out of 3 and add all our points together. Now, technically, I demolished everybody in games 1 and 2, but therefore I got targeted in game 3 and ended up losing and taking second place overall by a point. So that was unfortunate. The idea of you have to bid on your cards. You already see your hand, so you know, hey, I'm really strong in a particular color. I want that color, but how much of my money and or points, are you willing to bet? And then do you want more than one car? We were playing a 5-player game, which meant that there was an extra car, which means somebody had 2 every round. And when you end up finishing up the race, you have to have during the race checkpoint that you bid, and you basically write down a color, and then at the end you get paid out money amounts if those colors finished in the top 3 spaces. So in the first few, I just went all out on myself. I bid every time on me. I hit first place, and I ended up getting paid out huge. In the third one, I bid on me. I didn't get first place. I ended up abandoning myself after a couple bids and got some points, but I couldn't recover. It's a great game. The way that you move your cars, the way you can block people in, the way that you can, take advantage of a card because you're moving everybody else too. It's not like you just run away. You have to move other people on it. So you have to be really, really good about judging how to use a card and when. Such a good game. I really enjoyed it. So my number 9, Downforce. Number 8. This is one that I need to get. I had an opportunity at it really cheap, and I turned it down, and I'm hoping to get my hands on it soon again. Pan Am. Pan Am, we have now played, I want to say 4 or 5 times since getting back together in person. We played it a few times this year. It was one of the biggest surprises to me because when my friend picked it and he showed the game in the actual thing, I was like, oh. And then he opened it up and he put it out, and I was like, oh. And then we started to play, and I was like, oh. It was so interesting because, yes, there's dice rolling, but the dice rolling really isn't affecting a lot because if you've invested in a track, because the idea is that Pan Am is slowly buying up all of the airlines out there. So you're going out there and you're trying to connect things and basically buy up them and then sell them to Pan Am. Well, if the die rolls and your thing is sold off, you're going to make a big profit off it. But if it's not, it means that you still have a large amount of income coming from that. And it's all about just, what am I going to bid for? Do I want to get out, a piece to give it so that I have now a tower, and that's going to give me an option to always connect? Do I want to get more locations so that I can use those to go and connect and get a plane down? Am I trying to buy the bigger planes so that I can get the longer routes? It's a really interesting game. It's very strategic, and it doesn't take long. Every time that we've picked it, we've played it multiple times in the same night. So it's not an extremely long game, but for a more experienced game group like we are, it wasn't one I thought we would like, and we love it. When, again, I believe it was a Target sale where it was really cheap. And I just at the time was like, I shouldn't be spending money, so I didn't. It was like $10. I don't know why I didn't do it. Everybody else got the game. So we have 4 people in the 5 of us who own the game now. I definitely want to get it soon because I think that my family's going to enjoy it. Well, that was number 8, Pan Am. Number 7. Now, this is a game that I own. I have not reviewed yet. I want to get it to the table soon for everybody here. Cry Havoc. Cry Havoc, I have only played 1 time. I played it because we went to a game night. We were supposed to have another game, and whoever was supposed to come that night with their game unfortunately had to call out. They couldn't make it. So last minute, we were like, well, what are we going to play? And so he was like, let's play Cry Havoc. It plays 3. If the other person shows up late, there's a 4th person there. He could technically jump in. So we pulled it out. We put it to the board, and I loved it. And I didn't think I would. And not because it was anything negative. There was nothing I'd heard about it. I didn't look at the board and think like, oh, this looks bad. It just didn't grab me. And then we started to play, and I was like, oh, there's a little bit of deck building here. There's troop movement. We're fighting. There's resource gathering. We're getting these gems and such. This completion of objectives. There's a lot going on here. And all of a sudden, I realized this is a highly strategic game, but it gets really condensed down to a shorter period of time. It's not going to take you 3 hours. It may not even take you 2. It's more likely a 90-minute game. I really had a good time playing. I think that it's a game that I would really recommend to others to get. I picked it up and I immediately bought the expansion for it. So when we play next time, instead of having 3 factions and then somebody could technically play as like the monster faction that's always on the board, we now have a 4th faction and can play a real 4-player game. I'm super excited. I think it's a great game. And I had such a fun experience that night and can't wait to get it back to the table. So that was number 7, Cry Havoc. Number 6, Dinosaur Island. I have been wanting to get this one to a review for you guys too. It's my game. I got this one for my birthday from my in-laws and was super excited. I had Dinosaur Island and Dinosaur World both up there. I was a little bit more excited about Dinosaur World. I thought it visually looked better, but I had heard Dinosaur Island was the better game. I still haven't played Dinosaur World, so I can't compare, but I love Dinosaur Island. I've already played it 3 times, and it is a game that really mimics Jurassic Park, which is really what most of these dinosaur games that come out these days do. When you see a big dinosaur game, it's just Jurassic Park with a different name on it. So what do you do in this game? The whole concept of the game is that you're trying to collect your resources of DNA to then use that to make dinosaurs. But then you're also investing in both spots on your board, new attractions, shops, food locations, pens. And the pens are there so that you can get your dinosaurs in it. But you're also trying to keep track of everything on the right and make sure, like, okay, I've got to keep my security up. Because when we get to the end of all of the round, we then have to do our random drawing from a bag to figure out, okay, based on everything on my board, I'm going to get, 14 patrons coming in. But if you pull one of the 9 pink-colored patrons, well, they basically are jerks who have pushed through the line and they're not going to be giving you anything. And then, after that, you have to figure out, well, where's your security and where's your threat level? If the threat level is beyond your security level, for every level beyond, they eat patrons. So you're going to be losing out on points. Instead of gaining from them, not only do you not get their point value, you lose points because they were eaten. If you can keep it below that, then even if you're not making a lot of patrons, you're not getting hit, you're not losing points to them, and you're getting all the points you can. But then how have you made your attractions? Have you set it up properly so that you can get the right kind of points? Are you getting the best points, or are you just getting a bunch of widespread points that aren't adding up to a lot? It's a really cool game. I really cannot wait to get it to the table for the 4th time. I love it. I'm going to be setting that up and reviewing it soon for everybody. It was one of my games of the year. That was number 6, Dinosaur Island. Number 5. This is one we have reviewed. You guys know how much I enjoyed it. I also have played this at least 3 times this year. Viticulture. I loved Viticulture. Viticulture was such a cool game, and I was so worried going in. I had been anticipating a game of Viticulture for a long time because I thought that the concept of the game was very interesting, but I was worried it was going to be boring or it was going to be too heavy. Instead, it was extremely, you were interactive, you were pulled in, the theme really hit with this. And it wasn't too heavy, but it was difficult in a great way. That mechanic of we have 2 seasons, and if you use all your meeples in season 1, you have nobody for season 2. So keep your eyes on everybody and see when people are passing and figure out, should you be holding on to meeples, or do you want to invest all in season 1 and take advantage of that excess space? Or have people screwed up and they're not thinking, and you can kind of get out early and you can invest everybody in the second half. It's a really cool game. I love the idea of how you make the wine, how you slowly have to build it up, how you have to combine it to make other types of wine. I love everything about it. It was a really fun play. We have somebody in the group who owns it, so I don't really need to, but I'm hoping to get to borrow it at some point and play it with my family and see if they like it. And if they do, I'll throw it on the Christmas list. So that was number 5, Viticulture. Number 4. This is another one I haven't gotten out here for you guys yet. It is a big, big Kickstarter that a friend of mine backed. I had considered it. I chose not to. Financially, I'm happy with that decision. Ownership-wise, I'm not. That game is called Foundations of Rome. Now, This is a game that I understand if somebody just plain out hates it, because this is a very heavy one mechanic style game that is expensive. If it was cheap, it'd be a little bit harder for people to hate on it. But because of how expensive it is, I can see why people look at it and go like, no. But, for me, I loved the game Chinatown. And when I saw Foundations Rome, I was like, oh, cool. It's kind of like a new Chinatown. You're slowly putting things on the board. You have to buy your lots to then get onto the lots. That's kind of cool. I like that concept. But this went so far above and beyond that. The idea of there being 3 different styles of buildings, and some of them are paying out in money, and some of them are paying out in victory points, and other ones are giving you specialized points, and trying to see if you can get more and more lots. The fact that mixed into the lots are special abilities, and if you grab those, you can cash those out or hold on to them for their points. The idea that there's a bunch of extra buildings and that you can choose, like, hey, we're going to play with this expansion, which is going to bring, styles. So we would play like with specialized buildings on the side that said, well, you can build one of your 3 sets. There's also these 9 buildings that all of you can build. And if at any point one of you can afford it, you can just build one of those buildings, and now it's going to be put on your color. I loved it. Great concept, great execution. I've played it twice so far. I want to say I won at least once. I think I took a first and a second place. It's my style of game. I really like that buy a lot, build on the lot, and work from there type style game. So I can't wait to own it. I'm going to definitely own this at some point. It was really fun. My number 4, Foundations of Rome. Number 3, this is another huge Kickstarter that I wish I had invested in. If I had to pick between this and Foundations of Rome, I'm pretty sure that this is the one I liked more, even though Foundations of Rome was more likely to hit with my family. Northgard. I've already reviewed this game. I really like this game. The idea of, all right, we're going to start with just a few pieces in the middle of the board, and everybody has their factions. Your deck building. You start with a basic, set of cards. We can be buying from the new cards that are coming out. You also have upgrade cards of your own that you can at any point upgrade to if you get the right setup. When you build on the board, you're putting out your hero. You're putting out your meeples. You're also trying to get sections because, okay, this one gives food because I've got this space and built a food thing on it. This one's got a tower, so if I'm in there, it's harder to get in because it's extra defense for me. This one's gonna give me, bonus money or victory points. I've closed the entire section, so at the end of a round, now this section, depending on its size, gives a lot of points. There's so many ways to get it. I think some people might call this a point salad. I don't think that's it is what it is at all. This is a warfare resource game with deck building. And for me, I like a warfare game, but not pure warfare. I love a deck building game, and I love a resource management game. So when you take those two and you add them to a warfare, now you've got the mix. And this was just such cool minis, such great art, such an interesting game. I loved it. It is my number 3, and that is Northgard. Number 2. Number 2 is a game that I did not invest initially in, and then I regretted it, and then I decided to invest in it on the second run because they had a, hey, we have extra, who wants to get in on this? And I said, all right, I'm in now. I wish I'd gotten the deluxe. I went with the basic, but number 2 is Wonderland's War. I just played this game a few days ago for the first time. This game is amazing. Now, I don't know if I'd get extra gameplay options with the deluxe. I just know that, instead of having cardboard with your little things, popping your figures around, you would have gotten minis, that all of your resources and everything would have been better quality. But the idea of this game is you are in Wonderland and you are playing one of the 5 big characters. I played the Mad Hatter, somebody was Alice, somebody was the Red Queen, somebody was the Cheshire Cat, and you're going around the Mad Hatter's tea party. You're at the table. Now, what you do is that you're trying to collect items to throw into your bag that are for pulling. And You slowly, when you go around during your turns, you basically start at one section, and in a rondelle fashion, you'll go, okay, you can go as far as you want to go, but when you stop, you're going to pick up the card, and you're going to do its actions. It might say, take some of your people and go and put them in a battle somewhere. There are 5 battles around here, and they all pay out different victory points, which are randomized every time you play. So it might tell you to do that. It might tell you to go and grab any card you want and to take its pieces and add it to your bag, or if it's a new person, now you have somebody else to fight with on the outside. It might tell you that you're going to be able to move one of your people. It might tell you that you're going to be able to buy from one of the up top allies. There's a bunch of options. So you're going to do whatever it tells you, and the next person goes. Eventually, you're going to have to go around the table to the beginning again. If you get to the beginning, then you're going to have to roll a die, which will determine how many shards you take. And these shards are negatives for the end of the game. And whoever has the most shards at the end of the round has to gain an additional madness token, which goes into your bag, which is bad. That's how you lose troops. It's not good. So you keep going until everybody has gotten 4 cards. And then the next turn, everybody will take their person one by one and place them into a battle. All of your meeples do not represent power, they represent life. Meaning, when you go down to the battle phase and you're fighting, you're going to go, okay, well, first, do you have any of your standees in there? Is your character, is my Mad Hatter character, or any character I got during this in there? What are their power levels? How do they affect the other people? Move yourself on the battle track. Once everybody's done that, and you know where that is, you then all put your hand in your bag. You're going to pull out one chip, and you're going to reveal it. And you're going to basically see, okay, my chip says I do this. Theirs says this, that. You're basically looking for power, but these chips usually come with some type of bonuses with them as well. But you're trying to dodge your madness, because when you get a madness, 1, you have to either take 1, or if you have the big one, 2 of your meeples off of the board from that section. If you ever run out of meeples, you've lost the battle, you drop to 0, you're out. 2, you then place it on your madness track. If you ever hit the end of your madness track, then you immediately take all of those and everything that's expired from your other chips, throw them back in your bag. So it's not bad if you haven't gotten a lot of madness in the game to be at 3, because you have very little madness in your bag. But once you get that 4th, now all of them go back in and you have a big rise in madness again. So that's not good. So you do all this, you check each battle. If you win the battle, you get its points, and you put one of your castles there, which is additional points for future battles, and it's worth victory points at the end. If you're in second place, you get half of first place points, and if you tie, then each of you get to choose if you want to have first place points or if you want to have the castle. So you do all this, and then you finish the round, you go to round 2, you finish the round, you go to round 3, and at the end of the round 3, you figure out, okay, everybody's got these points, and now we're going to go based on the battle points, and we're going to add additionally to that points based on where are your castles, what did you do on your board. It's a really fun game, and it was my introduction to a bag builder. I've never played a bag builder before. I've played deck builders, and I've loved them for years, and I don't know yet. I think I have to play another one to see if I'd consider a bag builder for me to, in my personal opinion, just be part of the deck building world, or if it really is just a separate thing. Right now, I got super into it. I really liked it. Can't wait to get at the table again. And suddenly, I'm interested in trying that game, Quacks of Quedlinburg, that I've heard about for years, because I've got a little taste of a bag builder, and I want to try another one. So that's my number 2, Wonderland's War. Now, if anybody out there knows me personally and has talked to me a bunch, specifically my game group would know the best, they may have thought Wonderland's War was going to snake my number 1 spot here. But if they really thought about it, they'd probably realize there's obviously one game that was going to get it. It's the game that is up for my game of the year. It is the game that it looks like has supplanted my former favorite of Clank as my new favorite game of all time. That is number 1, Dune Imperium. Wow, what a game. We have played it 3 times. We have loved it. I want to get it to the table again soon. I want us to play with the Rise of Ix expansion. I want to see what that's like. The concept of this game is so cool. because you've got the deck building side. Hey, we all start with the same 10 cards, and we're going to have the ability at the end of rounds to take our cards that we didn't spend in our hands and to go into purchase from up top and see what we can get for additional cards to our decks. Great, love that. Then you've got your worker placement, which is my second favorite mechanic, which allows you to go place around the board and get actions during the round. Now, when you've drawn your cards for your round, you can't just go anywhere. This is an interesting thing that I don't think I've seen elsewhere, where they say, yes, these are your cards, but if you want to go to a spot, you need a card that correlates to that spot, and you have to spend the card to do it. Now, sometimes when you do it, the card will also give you an action. Just like if you choose not to do that and you hold it till the end to buy, it'll have a buying action. Or if you don't want to buy, it'll have a use it for, say, warfare action. There's a few different possible actions. A card can just have 1, 2, 3. There's multiple possibilities there. But you have to spend a card to go somewhere. So you all of a sudden go, okay, well, I want to go here. I'm going to spend this card to go there. There's your basic obvious spots to go. You know, about 75-80% of the board are these clear-cut, most of your cards get you here spots. But then there's the specialized faction spots. Now, these are interesting because, one, they're harder to get to, especially at the beginning of the game. You've only got either 1 or 2 cards that allow you to go to them, but they don't do anything. It just lets you go there. There's no real extra piece to them. So you already get that limitation. It's like, all right, well, if you want to get better, you're going to have to save up and buy really powerful cards that'll not only let you in there, but will let you actually do something too. Make it a better version of the card you started with. But on top of that, one, the actions there tend to be stronger than the actions on the board. It's not guaranteed across the board, yes, it's better. Of course, you could pick a weaker action to the right, and that action could be better overall for you because it fits your plan. But if you just judge them head to head, these ones should win most of the time. On top of that, you also, whenever you place a guy there, you're going to move up on their chart. So the way that works is you have 2 different things you're going for. Well, 3. First is whoever is in the lead will be getting a victory point for that particular faction. So I could be at, out of the 10 spots at like 5, everybody else is at 3 and below, I've got the victory points. But if at some point somebody makes a crazy move and they somehow manage to go multiple times in a row to that spot, or they use a specialized card to go to that spot, they could surpass me, and not only do they get a point, they take it from me. The game only plays until somebody hits 10 points. You can go beyond 10, but once somebody hits 10, it signifies the end, the last round. So to have a shifting point setup is not something that you don't feel confident. You might say like, okay, I got my point, let me move somewhere else. And it's like, whoa, take a breath. Why don't you keep moving up? Because somebody could just take it away from you. And if you end up getting 4 points, and then all of a sudden each of the other players snakes 1 and goes way ahead of you, now you're way behind. You spread yourself too thin. Then we've got the ability to cross the 6 mark, which when you do this, you immediately get a paid out resource of some type. So some of them give you water, other ones are going to give you money, other ones are going to give you, cards. These are really good because you can shift up and down on these tracks. You can play a card that says like, hey, I want to drop down 1 on track A and go up 2 on track B. Your option. Well, what's great about that is if you go back below the 6, you don't owe back the resource. But if you cross it again, you get the resource back. Some of those resources, like water, for instance, is extremely difficult to get. And unless you specialize your deck to keep going to the water spots, it's not going to help a lot. So if you can do that and be able to go up and down a few times and grab some extra water, it's a huge plus. Then you've also got the ability to go and invest in, hey, I want to get my extra meeple. That's not easy. I think it's like 8 money to do that, so that's not easy to do. There's the ability to invest in a council, which means that every time that you go to buy up top, you'll always have a bonus plus, either it's +1 or +2 for your buy. Then you've also, during the game, are trying to get troops first into your section and then into the war. So You might say, hey, I go to a spot and it allows me to recruit, but it doesn't let me put them in the war. So my recruit section keeps building, but there's nobody fighting yet. And then you might go to another spot that says, okay, this one lets you recruit, but it also gives you a warfare setup. And usually the setup is anybody you recruit can go right to the war, and you can drag additional people from your recruits in there. It gives you a limit. So you do all this. You also are doing things that are going to affect it. So at the end, you have your little guns, and that's going to move you on the gun track. And then you have your tactic cards that can be played during this. So when you get to here, this is the big part of the game. You basically have a card that is flipped that says, here's your first place, here's your second place, here's your third place. You all get 1 point for every gun point you get, 2 points for every one of your troops that are in the battle, and then whatever the points are that you're going to get based on your tactic cards that are played. At the end of it all, once everybody has completely finished, and the way that works is first player goes and can play a tactic card. Once all 4 people in a row have not played a tactic card, we are done with the battle. Once that's finished, you figure out who's in the lead, and you go, okay, first, second, third. Now, that's based on a 4-player game, so, if you're playing a 3-player game, it's only first and second. And if there's ties, the ties mean both players get the lower action. So if there's a tie for first and second both get second player payout, and third gets third. Whereas if it was a tie for second and third, it'd be first gets first, and second and third split third. And if by chance there was a 4-way tie, well, you all get fourth, which is nothing. So you do all this. Anybody who is in the battle returns. Anybody who is in the recruits stays. So that might be a reason you don't want to put people in the battle, is that you're recruiting to make sure you're ready for the next round's battle. There's a lot to this game. It is so interesting. It's so much fun. It is a real back and forth tug-of-war struggle. I've played 3 games. I've won 1, and the one I won was a out of nowhere come from behind victory where I had been basically out of it the whole game, and all of a sudden somebody hits 10, somebody matches them at 10, and before the round ends, I end up getting 3 points and jump from 8 all the way to 11, and I snaked the game from everybody. And nobody saw it coming, and it was great. And then there's other games where I've been in last place. I love it. It's a true fight. I feel like me and all my friends are on equal platforms. I don't feel like anybody is not in it. We always are competing, and I want to try this game with other people. Well, that was my number 1, Dune Imperium. This has been my top 10, and I want to remind everybody, these aren't my favorite games. These aren't my games I recommend you to buy. These were my games that I played at my game group on Monday nights of the year 2022 that were my favorite experiences. I had the funnest time playing. And I really feel that all of these games are something that people can enjoy, but I don't think it's going to hit for everybody. I don't think there's anybody here who's going to see this list and say, oh yeah, I love all 10 of those games. But I do think that if you like a lot of them, give another one a try, because you might look at it and say, yeah, I didn't want to play Foundations of Rome. It doesn't look like a game for me, but the other 9 of his I actually like, so maybe that one's good. They're different games. I'm not by any means comparing one to the other, but I think it's all about just finding that niche of mechanics that work for you, and also realizing sometimes a mechanic that you dislike may work in a particular game, or maybe a game you think you don't like might not work only because of the group you were playing with. Not because it's a bad group, but because not every game matches up with that group mentality. So just be aware of that. Be willing to give any game a try and see where it lands. So, yet again, this has been the Meeples Champion, and we've been talking about my top 10 funnest games on Monday nights of 2022. Thanks, everybody.